Coming up on the Weekend Geeks, we're talking with Bobby Clark, and it starts right now. Welcome in for our inaugural episode, and I'm meeting with the man, the myth, and the legend, the man known as the Gorn Captain, Bobby Clark. Bobby.
How y'all doing?
Bobby, you've been a good friend of mine for many years, going back to when we had BayouCon. Just wanted to meet with you here at Pensacon for our first ever episode and just chat about your career and your time as the Gorn and what it's like going to conventions and being a part of all of this that's out there. Does it still surprise you that fans want to see the Gorn Captain?
Good God, yes. I never did expect them to see me in the first place.
Whenever they called you way back when to play the Gorn, did you expect that kind of call? Was it something like,
Heavens, no. No, I can answer that quick. No, I didn't expect that. I didn't even know what it was when I first heard about it. The man, Joseph Pevney, was the director of this show, and he's the one that said I would like what it is. And I didn't argue with him. I've known Joe. And I just said, well, all right. And he says, well, we'll work on it, and he'll let me know.
Was it an audition process, or did you have the role and they just gave it to you?
Well, I kind of believe that Mr. Pevney knew who he wanted to be for the Gorn, but no, I did not have the role. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know then what it was going to be, but I didn't have an audition for it or anything like that.
So you were doing stunts, right? You were not necessarily acting. You were more of the stunt side.
Well, I'm a stuntman, yes. So to speak, I'm a stuntman.
So, how did that start for you? You started in the background and then worked your way into doing some things like that?
Well, I just to kind of make it a little quicker, years ago, there was me. I was in, I think it was in Burbank someplace, and I seen a whole bunch of people there, and I went over there and looked at it, and they were filming a feature called A Fever in the Blood with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., and they needed some people to just be background. There was no pay involved in it. They just wanted people to push in there and have people walking, so I did that. That was my first episode of doing anything on the film. And then later on, it just started progressing, and I found out that there was a chance that I could become an extra in the picture business. So I proceeded with that, and that was a hassle and a hard drive myself because I couldn't work on a picture because I didn't belong to the union. So I went looking at Screen Extras Guild so I could get into being a screen extra. And then they told me that they can't hire me or they can't give me a card because I don't have, no, they said they couldn't hire me because I didn't have a card. And then I went back to the people that were shooting, and they said, well, we can't hire you unless you got an SAG card or SEG card. That's Screen Extras Guild. So
eventually you were able to get it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. It was a catch-22. But eventually I got it, and then that's how my career started right there as an extra.
And you were doing a lot of Westerns and things like that, right?
We did a lot of Westerns, yeah.
What was some of the more memorable pictures?
The first Western I ever worked on was Rawhide. And that was quite a while back. And that from Rawhide, I went to another little shot of things. And it's just, you don't just go there and do these things. You work your way into it. And pretty soon somebody's going to see you and they're going to remember you and they're going to say, well, let's get him, try him. So we did that.
You get the call and they say, well, we want you to come for this role, and it's November, and you walk on set for the first time.
Well, now you're talking about being
Star
an
Trek.
actor.
Yes, I'm talking about Star Trek specifically, where you're in the Gorn.
Well, that was long after I became working in the studios, because I worked extra for quite a few years, and an extra he's just the person you see walk across the film and sitting in a bar, playing cards, drinking beer, standing up against the bar, or going up and down stairs. It's just you're just a model, kind of a dummy model that you're using.
You know, we have a running joke, because I have been background, and you see back of my head, or you see the side of my head and arm all the time, and it's like people don't understand that that's all background. That's it. It's not illustrious, but it is. You do get to see some of the filming thing. But let's go to Star Trek. You worked that background. You got into stunts. You were able to get your career to that point.
All right.
And you're on set for November. You haven't seen anything. You walk into the set. Your first reaction whenever you see the green monster.
Well, my first action, I didn't see the green monster. I went into the wardroom. I didn't even know what the monster was supposed to look like. He was just hanging up, and I didn't see anything that looked like wardrobe hanging up, because he wasn't wardrobe. He was just a bunch of material lapped over a bar, and that was my costume. Then the wardrobe man came in, and he told me that, well, this is your costume, and this is what you got to wear. So, well, we put it on, and I zipped it up, and we got together, and it fit good, and then we took it off, and I was there.
So you had to look at that and ask yourself, is this really what I want to do?
That's what it was. I didn't even know what it was. Like I say, I talked to the wardrobe man, and I called him back. I said, "I'm supposed to be a costume in here for me, or actually wardrobe, we call it." And he says, "Well, it is in there." And we went back and forth on that a little bit, because he said it's there, and I said it wasn't there, because I was looking for something on a hanger, not something draped over a pipe bar. And he came in and he showed it to me, and then I said, "Oh, okay, now I know what we're doing." And I just went with it, got in line, and got it on and went for it.
So November was hot, but it wasn't necessarily summer hot, but the Gorn costume was still hot to wear.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it was all rubber costume. And then I fit it, and that's when we went to shoot the location.
Well, what is a Gorn?
What is the Gorn?
Is it just a guy that goes?
He's a latex. No, he's a reptilian creature. He was from another space. He was another space object, like Star Trek was Star Trek. Well, the Gorn was the Gorn. That's what they called him. I was the captain of the Gorn ship. And when we got into the pull from the Metrons, we had no control over our ship. And of course, Captain Kirk, he had no control over his ship either. And we were chasing the Gorn, but the Gorn, the Metrons were running that chase. They wouldn't let us catch them, and they wouldn't let them slow down, or it was just one of those things like that.
You were in Star Trek 4 times.
Yes.
The Apple, Mirror, Call the Archons, and the Arena.
Right.
It seemed like each time, each episode, you had something to do where you were fighting Kirk. It seemed like
more or less, yes, except for on Return of the Archons.
It feels like that's how they cast you, as somebody that was always there to beat up Kirk, because it's like you always had the last chance.
Well, you see now, there was another guy that doubled Kirk. That wasn't Bill Shatner that did it. But he did do some of that stuff, but the other stuntman did it. And I was trying to think of his name, and I just can't think of it right now, but he was a hell of a stunt guy that worked in that show.
Let's talk about you personally. You and your wife, Judy, you live northern Los Angeles area on a beautiful ranch. You as a person, you enjoy horses and cowboy kind of things like that. That's where your start was.
Well, I've been a cowboy all my life, but I just I didn't make a living doing cowboy work, so I had to do something.
And acting was
that was at the time, that was the easiest thing that you could do.
And then you told me a story about your son who really was the one who got you into doing conventions.
That's my son, Carl. Yeah.
How did that start?
Well, he used to tell me all the time, Dad, he says, you ought to go to one of these conventions for Star Trek. And because the Gorn that you played is becoming popular, and there's a lot of people out there that would like to meet you and stuff. And I just kept shining him off, and then one day he brought a little model action figure, and I saw that, and I was flabbergasted myself. I didn't know it was that. I didn't know what the Gorn was. Mm-hmm. It was just a part that I did on a TV show. And I asked a man about it, and he says, well, you were the Gorn? And he says, yeah. He says, well, why ain't you out there telling people who you are and stuff like that? I don't know. I didn't, I was just did my job. And people seemed to like it. So I went and I did my first convention, and that was the get up in the seat of the wagon and smack the horses on the butt and start moving.
At the end of the day, at the end of your career, what is the one thing that you want fans to know about the actor Bobby Clark, the person Bobby Clark, and the Gorn? What is the legacy that you want to leave with your fans? Because you've left such a rich career. I mean, you see every time you go to a convention, you see people in all smiles because they're meeting someone from their childhood that they've loved so much.
It seems like that. I've had a lot of people say, well, you used to scare me when I was a little kid. I'd look under the bed afraid that you'd be under there. They said that they just were crazy about the Gorn, and that it just went on. And as they got older, well, then they put it onto their kids, and then their kids are putting it onto their kids. It seems like it just snowballed, and I never expected that. I was still picking up horse poop. And I still pick up horse poop.
But you do it, and you bring
I do it on
enjoyment to
myself,
fans,
and that's what I call relaxation.
And just really just being there for the fans.
Yes, that's the fans are the thing. That's it. After a while, it became to where I would look at them and say, well, these people are nuts. They're working hard. They're spending their money on pictures and stuff like this. I mean, I'd never thought of doing that. And it's just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, and God bless them, they work hard for their money, and they come out and do that for people like me and other actors and stuff. I just think that they're about the greatest thing that walks, and that's what gives me the incentive to go out and do more.
All right. I want to thank Bobby Clark, our first guest this week on this show, and we'll be right back as Eric and I wrap it up right after this.
Well, adios, and I hope I see you at a convention.
We'll be right back. Well, I want to thank our guest, Bobby Clark, for joining us for our first episode. Remember, head to our website at www.fandomappearances.com. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Patreon, and lots more. All fandomappearances.com has your source for convention information, as well as actors and everything you could ever need, with blogs and lots more, including this show, all at fandomappearances.com. But on that set of unfortunate news, it's time for us to end next week our post look at Pensacon 2022 right here on The Weekend Geeks. Good night.